one, the guy was advertised as .01, and this
Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Just a little impromptu live stream today. Hanging out here down at my shop. And it's kind of quiet. And it seems like every time I go live and decide to do one of these live streams, a whole bunch of people start coming in, right? So that's what I'm hoping happens today. Sometimes I got to warm up on guitar a little bit. Layla's Guitar Daddy, how are you? Glenn, Janice. Janice, thank you for watching that video. I bought these guitars from this guy here in town. And I bought like 23 of them. And they're all from a company called Nashville Guitar Works. And I don't see them very often. I've like never seen them, but here they are. I have them available. They make great Christmas presents. And so I decided to buy them. I got them in pretty cheap. This thing is, Glenn is asking, what is this thing? It's a, I think it's a Jackson body. And I think that it's just, you know, it's a parts caster, right? But I think it used to be a Jackson body by the looks of this cutaway right there. But I put a weird neck on it, and it plays great. So you end up with these parts casters, and because they don't have serial numbers and because they don't have this or that, it's kind of tough to price them. So I have a couple of guitars that I just kind of leave, you know, back here behind the counter. And whenever I get a chance, I play these things. Patrick, how you doing, man? It's good to see you. What's going on, man? How are you? Quentin James, what are you doing, man? How are you? So, yeah, this is kind of my plan. Whenever I decide to do a little fun little live stream at the spur of the moment, guys will start walking into the store, and I've had 2 guys just walked in. So it works every time. Tons of fun, right? Sitting here playing guitar. It does not sound good. I imagine for you guys it sounds horrible. I always sit and I play through, and you can see it right here. But it's my Fender Cyber Deluxe, and it has one setting that I love, and I just leave it on that setting all the time. And it kind of gives me that shreddy kind of 80s hair metal sound that I like. Stevie Lee, what's up, buddy? Stevie Lee is the guitarist in my band. We are called Whiskey Dogs, and I have a little show coming up at the Marquee Theater. Can I help you with something?
I was just looking for my kid to see some options. He's 6, so I was just trying to see sizes. I see one over there, so.
Awesome. Yep, thank you for coming in. So me and Stevie, we have a gig at the Marquee Theater, which is a great venue here in Tempe, Arizona. Noise Pollution is the headliner. And I think there's 5 bands on the bill. Again, there's the AC/DC tribute, there's a Wasp tribute, and then there's 3 original local bands. And I think we go on third is the latest rumor that I'm hearing. And my band is called Whiskey Dogs. And if anybody here is in the Phoenix area and you want to go see this show this Saturday, the 23rd, then I do have tickets available down here at my store. Come and get them while the getting's good. It's a Mike Gobby production. Mike Gobby is a DJ down in Tucson. So it should be a fun time to get on a big stage like the Marquee Theater. Guys are coming in, guys are going out. Let me know if anybody has any questions. Glenn, I'm going to Tucson to see Zakk Wylde on November 23rd. That should be fun. Fret Level Midnight, how are you doing? What is going on with me? Well, nothing much is going on. When I'm busy down here at the store, I definitely don't have time to do this. So, I go on the Tuesday night Johnny Bean show, and that is on Tuesdays, and it's 5 o'clock. So I close my shop at 6 o'clock. So I'm usually down here for the last hour of the day. And I really appreciate those Johnny Bean and those guys letting me go on that show with them because, John Mancuda, that guy's a comedian. Neanderthal, that guy's a morning DJ. He's a comedian. What am I doing on there with these comedians, right? So it's super lucky on my part to be able to go on that show with those guys because trust me, I am not a comedian. So I kind of feel a little out of my element on that show, but if they're going to let me come on, I'll keep on keeping on. Patrick, that's good, man. Patrick comes in my shop all the time, and he buys and sells and trades guitars with me all the time. It's a great customer, and I really appreciate him coming in here. Jason, here's the deal, man. My BC Rich, I put it on Reverb 2 days ago. And I've got one guy that made me an offer of $1,400 plus $100 in shipping. So I'm thinking that's a pretty good price. So I went ahead and accepted that. But now it's taken this guy forever. It seems like forever to go ahead and pay for it. So I went ahead and I said, okay, I'll accept that offer. And now he hasn't paid for it yet. But the guitar, it is on Reverb. If you go into the videos in the description, you'll see a link to where you can go on Reverb and look at that guitar. Although right now, it's not on there today because I went ahead and accepted an offer. This guy's over in LA. And again, he offered me $1,400 for it. He seems a little bit shady. And so usually when you buy a guitar on Reverb, you go ahead and pay for it immediately. And there it is. Well, he's taking his time paying for it. I don't know if he really has the money. So we'll see what happens. Check again in a day or two, because if he doesn't pay for that guitar in the next day or two, I'm going to throw it right back up. And I'm asking $1,500 for it. And maybe that seems like a lot of money for an NJ series, but I don't know. I kind of think it's worth it. The way the guitar market is right now, where BC Rich, NJ series, BC Rich stuff from like the 2000s is bringing $700, $800, $900 easy. I think that one's very special, and it should bring more money because it's so old. It has all the same Neil Moser electronics in it and everything. It's a nice guitar. So my reverb store's name is, I believe it's ZIMM'S Gear Locker. But if you go on that BC Rich video that I did the other day, there's a link in the description. All you got to do is click on that, and it'll take you right to my store. I know this guy seems like a tire kicker because he's called me 3 times. And, explaining that he's coming up with the money. He's going to sell a Marshall amp. He's going to do this and do that. And so I'm going to say there's a really good chance that he is just a tire kicker. And I'll probably end up, here in a day or two, I'll put it back up on Reverb. Fruitcake Tony. It's good to see you, man. Thank you guys for being on here with me. So let me know if you got any questions. You know what? I will show you what I did put up recently on Reverb. Let me move this guitar. Brian, hand me that guitar right there. So yes, if I have a guitar that's in a case and it's kind of easy to ship, I will put it on Reverb. Okay, this one is currently on Reverb. We did it this morning. This is a made in Japan Richie Cotson Telecaster. So you can see Richie's signature model. Richie Cotson. All this gold hardware. Big, fat. I mean fat. Maple neck. Some sort of a DiMarzio gold blade pickup in this. 2-way switch right here. So I made a video on this, and it explains all the electronics and everything in it. But when I talk about a big fat neck, this Richie Cotson Telly has, again, it's a 50s style neck, where this thing, it's chunky, man.
How much is that?
$400. It's mid 70s. Yep, because it's mid 70s. If it was 1960s, it'd be, 2 or 3 times that much. Yeah, so this guitar is currently on Reverb. Look at Richie Cotson Strats on there. I mean Tellys. If you want to see this one. Fret Level's got a question. Are you going to repaint the old BC Rich? No, I am leaving the BC Rich alone. I cleaned it up. The comments were overwhelming to leave that guitar alone. Actually, for my channel, the amount of comments I got on that first video was crazy. The video was pretty much, help, I need your guys' advice. Should I do the basic, glittery paint job like I did on this thing? I had this thing done. I love the glittery paint. But on that old BC Rich bitch, it would hurt the value. And I asked, and I wanted to do it just for fun. And I wanted to paint that thing just for fun. And a lot of people are like, bro, don't paint that guitar. And out of about the 500 views that video got, there was about 110 comments. So, 20% of the people that watched that left a comment. So for my channel to have that many comments, it was crazy. And again, everybody's like, bro, leave that guitar alone. Just clean it. It's not a factory relic. That's an original been out playing gigs type of a relic guitar, and it's just kind of beat up. But the fretboard on that BC Rich is in great condition. There's no fret wear. So some people like the glittery stuff that, you got to kind of be an 80s kid to enjoy the glitter and stuff like that, the green and the pink and all those kind of guitars. And Fret Level Midnight, I'm assuming that you're not old enough. Maybe you are. How old are you? I'm going to say if you're only 40 years old or less, you're not into the glittery stuff. But us old, 50-year-old guys, we love that sort of stuff. Oh, good. Okay, thank you very much. Call you in a bit. All right, so I had an offer on a bunch of guitars, and they just accepted my offer, so I'm going to go pick up a bunch of guitars tonight, a couple Martins. So, yeah. Yeah, you're a little bit younger, and that's just it. Trends change. And it was really kind of cool for us the last couple of years at the NAMM show, where all the 80s shreddy guitars from ESP and Schecter and Charvel and Kramer, they were all making that stuff, that looked like 1980s, Poison shreddy guitars. And that was a lot of fun for me to see all that kind of stuff. I was never a real big fan of the factory relic guitars because I played in punk rock bands and I always played tons of gigs. And when I first started seeing those Fender relic guitars, the Road Worn series stuff, I always kind of think, man, if you want your guitar to look like that, you need to take it out and you need to play gigs. And in 10 or 15 years of playing gigs, your guitar will look like that. And so who knows? So again, I was never a real big fan of the factory relics, but some of them, I gotta admit, man, that thing looks pretty cool. Nice. You told me about that, Kramer. My last live stream, you told me about that thing. Guys, I am definitely going to try to go to the NAMM show in June, because here's one of the things that for me personally, the NAMM show in June is going to be better because Winter NAMM is in January. So here in my store, here in Mesa, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix, the weather here in January is beautiful. And if you drive, 6 hours to go over to Anaheim, you have the same weather. It's really, really nice. So, but now that the NAMM show is in June, here in Mesa, Arizona, it's hot. It's hot, man. And then when it's that hot outside, you don't get dudes just going out guitar shopping and, coming and hanging out. So it's a perfect time for me to get out of town. And my son can even run the shop now too. I hired my son a few months back. And so I don't have to close to go to the NAMM show, but I can jump in a car. I can drive over to Anaheim, and I can't wait to go. The worst thing about it for me believe it or not, it's just the amount of walking that you do. My legs are sore, man. My legs get sore. You just walk around but it's definitely a great time. And, you go through your life just worshiping these musicians that, Vinny Appice and all these guys that I bumped into, a year ago when the last time I went to NAMM. It was amazing the people that you just run into and you're like, holy crap, there's freaking, whoever the guy might be, the bass player from Dokken, or whoever. It's just super cool to see these people are walking around and they're actually people. So I love going to NAMM just to run into these people and to see them, walking around. And I don't just run up to them and fanboy out, hey man, wow. But sometimes you'll get an opportunity to talk to somebody. And again, if you have a yo-yo in your hand, where's the comment at? Where's the comment? Yeah, I did that yo-yo video, right? You guys have watched that. So I have a yo-yo that Phil McKnight gave me. And for some stupid reason, I took it to NAMM. Oh, here it is. I took my yo-yo to NAMM, my Philip McKnight yo-yo to NAMM. And I'm walking around and and I got the yo-yo out, and me and McKnight and Lawrence Petros, we were all just standing there and I'm spinning. And the people that own the yo-yo factory, and Stephanie and her husband, they own the yo-yo factory. And so I get my camera out thinking, oh, I'll do a little vlog type video or something. And then Noodles from The Offspring walks by, and I'm like, whoa, there's Noodles from The Offspring. Hey, Noodles, give me a yo-yo trick, bro. And he's like, oh, okay. And he starts doing the yo-yo tricks. And I'm like, thank you very much, man. Awesome, whatever. And then about 2 minutes later, I'm like, I know what kind of video I'm going to do. I'm just going to go around and everybody that I recognize that's, I'm going to ask them to give me a little yo-yo trick. And I ended up, after 2 days, man, I had Steve Lukather do me a yo-yo trick. I had, Michael Anthony did a yo-yo trick. And it made for a really fun video. And even though the video, I thought that video would get, 50,000 views. Jared Dines is in it, and Fluff, and Music is Wind, and all these guys are in it. Whatever YouTuber I ran across, or whatever, musician that I would run into, they'd give. Billy Sheehan was doing yo-yo tricks, and Jeff Kiesel did a yo-yo trick, but it made for a really fun video. And so if you guys haven't seen it, go back in my channel and find the yo-yo video. It's tons of fun. And everybody that did a yo-yo trick for me in that video, they wasn't annoyed by having to do a yo-yo trick. They were like, it was a great distraction. They didn't have to talk about guitars for a minute. They had fun with the yo-yos, and everybody seemed to enjoy it. So it wasn't too bad. And then I went back a year later to NAMM, and people are like, dude, where's your yo-yo at? You're going to do another yo-yo video? I said, nah, 1 year's enough. I don't want to be the guy known for doing yo-yo videos at NAMM. I don't want to be that guy, but it turned out good. It was a lot of fun. So go way back. Janice watched the vid. Go way back in my channel and find my yo-yo video. It was a lot of fun. But I'm not going to do any more yo-yo videos. So what else you guys got for me? Give me a question about something. I'll show you another guitar I do have on reverb. Hey, Bryce, show me that Gibson we put on reverb. So I put this guitar on reverb earlier this morning. So this just came up on there. And there is a make an offer. Whenever I do reverb stuff, I will put the make an offer kind of thing, because being in a used guitar shop, buy, sell, trade, and barter is part of the game. So I have no problem in thinking about offers, taking offers, whatever you guys want to do. If there's a little bit of money to be made, I will go right ahead and I'll sell the guitar. Okay, so what we're looking at right here, this is a Gibson, and this series of guitars is called the BFG, and BFG stands for barely finished guitars. So this guitar with its P90s has one very light nitrocellular finish, just one coat, very light. It's a Gibson. It's from 2016. I believe the date is on it. No, this is a 2018 barely finished guitar. And it kind of came off with sort of that rattlesnake skin type of look to it. You don't see too much stuff with P90s very often. And so there is a video that I did probably about 2 months ago with this guitar. And I threw this up on Reverb just this morning. Yes, the Marquee Theater this Saturday. And I do have tickets available for that here in my shop. It's this Saturday. Stevie Lee is my second lead guitar player in the band. And he's the new guy in the band. We just brought him in about 2 or 3 months ago. And he's freaking kicking ass so far in this band. We're not going to kick you out of the band, Stevie. Don't even worry about it. You are in forever. This is the kind of band that once you join this band, you're in the band forever. I've been in my current band, we're called Whiskey Dogs. I have been in Whiskey Dogs since 2006. And we play shows in Phoenix, and we play shows in Los Angeles. Just 2 weeks ago, we opened up for Jack Russell's Great White at the Canyon Club in Santa Clarita. In 2 weeks, we're at the Whiskey A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip, opening up and doing a show with Power Man 5000, who's Rob Zombie's brother. So, and once in a while, Rob Zombie shows up to support his brother. So it would be really cool to be on stage at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Now, it's cool to be on stage at the Whiskey A Go-Go. But if Rob Zombie happened to be walking around inside that bar at the time we are on stage, I probably would piss my pants. You know, it was going to be super cool. Yeah. That's what's special about that BC Rich that I have, is because it has those electronics. I've searched Reverb. I've searched eBay. I can't find anything close to that made in Japan with those electronics. They just stopped doing it. Coming 1983, 84, 85, 80, you can't find those electronics. I have one with those electronics. I put it on Reverb 2 or 3 days ago. I had a guy call me 3 times. I sent him a bunch of photos, and he says he wants it. He went ahead and made me an offer. I accepted the offer. Now I'm waiting for payment. Now, if this guy doesn't pay in the next day or two, then I'm going to repost the guitar, and that BC Rich will be available. But as of right now, I'm waiting for payment on it. My dream guitar to have for sale? It's hard to say, man, because I'm not a Fender dealer. I'm not a Gibson dealer. I'm a used guitar shop. I'm a buy, sell, and trade guitar shop. I'm like one step down from being a pawn shop. But I set up all my guitars. I restring all my guitars. I check the electronics. I make them nice before I resell them. That's what, sets me apart from the average pawn shop, is that I fix them up. And once in a while, somebody, it's a weird thing that you have to think about, because I sometimes, it being in a used guitar shop like this, you capitalize on the death of somebody's grandfather died or somebody's husband died, and you end up getting that collection. And then, so, it's kind of a weird thing. And, you end up with these guitars and they belong to some guy that just loved them and he wanted to take them to his grave. And then these old women sell you, the guitars, and it's kind of a weird thing. And one time I was watching a Norman's Rare Guitars video, and Mrs. Smith was at Norm's, and she plays brand new Ibanez's, and she's a shredder. And her whole gimmick, I think it's a dude, but her whole gimmick is she's got the big silver hair all done up, and she dresses up like an old woman. It's Mrs. Smith. And Mrs. Smith was at Norman's Rare Guitars, and he's playing his brand new Ibanez and he's shredding, but he's looking around at all the old guitars. He's like, oh, it feels like death in here, because these guitars are all 50, 60, 70, 100 years old, and they've already been handed down 2 or 3 times. And so many people you have touched these guitars are gone now, and they're like haunted. And so you got to kind of think about, what kind of guitar shop do you want to be? Do you want to get into all those old guitars that are worth a ton of money, but somebody had to die in order for you to get that guitar? It's there's a little creepy thing going on right there. And Mrs. Smith looked around at Norm's and was just like, "Ugh, it's creepy in here," because and sometimes I kind of know what she or he felt like, because it's starting to happen to me, where my shop's only 5 years old. I've only been doing this for 5 years, and yeah, Smith is a guy. But that's a great gimmick, guys. That is a great gimmick. I love Mrs. Smith too. I'll watch all that stuff. But again, it's a weird feeling when somebody calls you and says, hey, and it's an old woman, hey, my husband died, and I guess it's time I have to sell off Henry's old guitar collection. And you're like, ooh, oh man, does he got Martins and Gibsons? And it's kind of creepy sometimes. And so sometimes I like trading this style of stuff. It's a 2018. Nobody died. Yeah, it didn't have to be in, any of that kind of weird stuff with it. So, yeah, it's one of those things. You got to kind of decide, what type of guitar shop do you want to be? Do you want to be an old vintage shop, or do you want to sell more modern stuff? Johnny Bean, how are you, my friend? Thanks for coming in for a minute and checking out me, a spontaneous live stream today, and just hanging out. When it gets quiet in my shop, sometimes I'm like, you know what I'll do? I'll do a spontaneous live stream. I won't tell anybody I'm even coming on, and I'll just randomly talk about whatever. And as soon as I turn this microphone on, people start pouring in, and it's kind of working. It's picking up. I do have Neil is in the back room making a video, and my son's in here helping me out, and we've got a customer chatting about different things today. But yeah, Johnny's sitting in his car. What are you doing, man? Are you in the Guitar Center parking lot? Stevie, I've counted and I've taken at least 8 guitars off your hands over the years. Yeah, that's kind of what happens.
I'll be back.
Okay, Neil. That's kind of what happens, and that's sort of my theory that I have on building a community. There's probably 100 guys, and I used to say there's probably only 50 guys that come into my store. But now, things are getting a little better, and I'm going to say there's 100 guys that come into this store, and they're all guilty of the same thing. They want new gear acquisition syndrome, and we all have it. And these guys come in here, and you could try to get top dollar out of one of these guys, but and if they decide to go for it, they're going to take that guitar home. They're going to be like, man, I paid top dollar for this thing. And then their buddies are like, bro, could have got one on eBay for. And so I try to give dudes a smoking deal. So when they walk out of here, they're like, man, I just ripped that dude off. He didn't even know what he had. You wouldn't believe the deal I got on this guitar. And then a week or two later, they come back in and they buy another one. So it's the old, when you're in high school and you start selling weed, you give away the first joint, it's free. But I try to do the same thing with guitars. And then it ends up just like Stevie here. After 2 or 3 or 4 years, you've sold the guy 8 guitars. There's guys that have bought a dozen guitars from me. And that's how you do it, because I figure you can give them and I give them great deals on all of them. Neanderthal is guilty of that. He has bought probably a dozen guitars from me, and I buy stuff from him too. And but we just all try to give each other good deals. And yeah, I like having Neanderthal on too. He's a very busy man. That morning show that he does, he gets out of bed at 3:30 in the morning to drive down into Phoenix to do his morning show. I believe he's the number 2 rock radio morning show in the Phoenix area. So it's a pretty big deal for Paul. He's been in radio pretty much his whole life. And there's been times where I'm like, yo, Paul, freaking so-and-so's playing at the bar across the street. Let's go watch a band, have some beers. He's like, bro, if I go out and drink beers with you, then I'll be driving home and then I'll get a DUI. And then it's going to be on the local Phoenix news. That local radio personality gets DUI and it's going to hit. And he can't do it. So he does have a good time doing the live streams, and you guys can see Neanderthal on the Johnny Bean show. And he's a great guy. He's got so much knowledge about. I've told him to start his own channel. I'm not really sure why he doesn't, but I believe he's under some sort of contract with his radio station, where maybe that's why he hasn't had his own channel. But yeah, Johnny, I've shipped some stuff lately. If times are good and there's a ton of people coming in the store and I'm selling stuff, then I don't feel an urgency to ship things or put stuff on Reverb, because I would rather not sell things on Reverb, because plus you're giving Reverb 10% plus some sort of fee. And your taffy. Take your taffy. Hey, thanks for coming in, man. How you doing today? That's your telly?
Yeah.
Let me take a look at your telly. I'm doing a little live stream, but
Okay.
This is a good one. Good label. String through the bridge, though, instead of string through the body. But that's okay.
Good for me, sitting out there at Val Vista on the exit lane is having a really bad day.
The frets feel nice on it. Possible trade-in item right here. It's a little telly. It's the Squire. I don't know if that gold label Squire means anything really, like, oh, it's an upgrade. It's the gold label. I've heard guys say that. I don't really know if it makes much difference. Remind me your name again.
Brian.
Brian. Okay, here, Brian.
Okay.
Let me know what you want to do with it.
I want to
Hey,
trade it.
Brian, hand me the. You want to trade it? Hand me the construction cone orange Squire right there. I got another Squire that looks just like it. And this is the crazy color, right? You know, when you're in a work zone. Woo! Look at that.
This one must have just happened. Because
That is like tangerine. It looks more tangerine in the camera than it does in real life. I would say right here, I'm looking at it, and it reminds me of construction zone pylons, the orange pylons that you see in a work zone. But on camera, it's kind of coming off like a pale tangerine color. But yeah, men working. I'll tell you what, if I could have got my hands on one of these when I was 16 years old, in 1976, 1977 was when I took my first guitar lesson. And I remember my parents, I remember that the Boston's album was out, and we were just blown away by the first Boston album. And of course, Frampton Comes Alive was out. So we were trying to do some of that kind of stuff. But I would take guitar lessons from this guy, and I still remember his name. His name was Ken Yeager, just exactly like the old NASA pilot, Kenny Yeager. And he would charge me $3 for a half an hour. And I'd go to his house, and we'd sit there, and he would show me, different. Oh, it's way out of tune. And I suck at playing. But he would show me Frampton songs and little riffs like that. And we would try to work on Kiss tunes and stuff like that. And my mom would drive me all the way. It was probably at least a 20-mile drive to get out to Ken's house. So you got to thank your mom for driving you to guitar lessons when you're 16.
So you just come and check out the Richie Cotson in person.
Yeah, that would be cool. Guys, hold on. I'm going to mute you just for a second so I can answer my phone. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Here I go. That was a buddy of mine, and he's talking about, I just lost 3 viewers while I was on the phone. But that was a friend of mine that comes in here all the time, and he's a guitar player. And back in the 80s, he was in a band called Virgin, and Ricky Rackman, the host of Headbangers Ball, was his lead singer. And he's got some stories, but he wants that BC Rich bitch that I have back there too. And so the negotiating thing, right? I'm negotiating with people. Steve Carmichael's hanging out. Pooh Ninja. Casey Lee. Oh, yeah. And excuse me, that's not a bad deal, but he just, Brian, right?
Yeah.
Brian just brought that in. He's a customer of mine. he bought a Pro Junior Fender amplifier from me a month ago. And when you say you got one of those for $80 at a yard sale, that's about what I was going to offer him in trade-in value, 75, $80, right around that neighborhood. So yeah, because nowadays I price them at between 140 to maybe 175, if they're really nice and new. Though, and we're talking about those little Squire, those Squire Tellys. I've got some of those Donner Tellys at $100 in here. Guys are buying the Donner stuff, and they play them for a couple of weeks or a month or however long, and then they bring them in here, and I give them $60 for them, and then reprice them at 100. So you do a lot of that kind of stuff. The hottest, cheapest guitar on Amazon. Guys buy those things and they mess around with them for a month or two, and they file the fret ends and sometimes change pickups out. And then when they're done playing with it, they sell them back to me, or they sell them to me. But those two, the Firefly, I see a lot of those Firefly Firefly guitars coming through and all that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of fun. Oh yeah, Ned's needs some cat litter. You should just get a big sandbox outside and just let him be out in nature, right? Do you actually have a cat box in the house? I guess he does. My problem is, and it's not a big problem really, but my girlfriend has a cat, and the cat lives in my bedroom with us. So I have a little bathroom in my bedroom, at my house, and there's a cat box right next to the toilet. And I sit down and I'm like, oh God, in the middle of the night, you sit down to take a leak and you're like, oh God. Ugh. Yeah, that's my life right there in a nutshell. The Donner guitars are nice and they're great deals. I've got a couple of them. But if there's a guitar that sells for, $89 or $119 on eBay or Amazon, I can't just reprice them at $200. I tell people, man, you can get these things. You can get these on eBay for $119 or $109 or whatever they are. And so here's a Donner, kind of neat. It's got the little Donner tag on the neck plate there. It's a thin line telly and kind of a nice big, sort of telly giant pick guard on there, kind of from like a Telly Deluxe or something. 3-way switch, humbuckers, string through the body, unlike the Squire that I just showed you, that is just a top loader. This one can be top loaded too, if you wanted to go there for some strange reason. Kind of weird. Actually, looking at the bridge, it's kind of weird how the saddles come in through the top there. And I guess you could put the strings through the bottom, but it makes the saddle set up kind of funny in a weird position right there. See how they're kind of high in the back? But yeah, these Donners are nice. And if it was 1976 and you were able to pull off a guitar like this for $100, man, all your friends would be like, bro, how'd you get that? Fret Level Midnight, he was the lucky winner of the Glary from a couple of weeks ago. And Philip McKnight and all of us scribbled all over the guitar and on the Johnny Bean show last night. Yeah, the Glaries have baseball necks. You know what? I took a guitar that had a big baseball neck on it. And I took my little electric sander that has the square sanding sheets on the bottom. And I just sat there and I went, and I sanded that thing down. And it is so much better now. Don't be afraid to take a sander to those necks. Janice, don't be afraid. Take a sander to the back of that neck. And don't go crazy on it. But you'll be surprised on just what 10 minutes of sanding will do to a glary neck. Don't be afraid to do it. If you go too deep, you're gonna hit the truss rod, and you do not want that to happen. Or another bad thing that can happen with the glary neck, or a neck that you're sanding down, is if you go too deep and then the next time you really tighten that truss rod, there's only going to be, an 1/8 of an inch amount of wood between where that truss rod is, and the truss rod bends this direction. It's going to poke out the bottom right here. I used to have a 70s Strat where the truss rod, somebody sanded it down so far that the truss rod poked out of the bottom right here. So that's the only thing that, I would worry about. Don't sand it too deep, but but you can sand those glary necks and fret level. Go for it, man. Just get your sander out and go for it. If you're the kind of guy that suffers from sweaty palms, this is not the neck for you because of all the gloss. But if it's $100 guitar and you're just going to keep it and you don't think, it's going to kill my resale value if I sand this off, take that green Scotch Brite pad and sit here and just rub on this neck for 10 minutes. And you'll get some of that finish to kind of come off, and it won't be so sticky. So, yeah, there's that. Janice repositioned the strap. Oh, so you took your strap button that was here and you put it out here on the back of the headstock. Yeah, Harley Bentons are the same way. You can mod those things. Bone nut, locking tuner, CTS pots, switchcraft jack, Lindy Fralin Blues special pickups. Do you have regret? Do you have regret putting that kind of money into it? Oh, yeah. He's doing it. Yeah, he's doing it. Sand the glary 3 times. Keep working on it, man. Keep it going. I've heard of a story where Philip McKnight, he actually took a neck and had it x-rayed where he could see where that truss rod was. So he could kind of see, how far he could actually sand it down. But that seems a bit extreme. But if it's a really nice, expensive guitar, you probably don't want to sand the neck in the first place.
Price tag.
But it's all about money. Awesome. Great. Thank you. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. If you have an interest in, there's 2 different kinds of guitar players. There's these great guitar players that can pick up any instrument and they don't care about any of this or that or the pickups or anything. They just use their ears and they make music out of it. And they go around and they play these gigs and they sound great. And they're playing a Squier that they got for $60 somewhere. And then there's the musicians that want to play with their equipment and play with their guitars, and they want to modify them. And my buddy Neil that was in here a little bit, he's guilty of that. He wants to put new potentiometers in every guitar that he has. He sits around and lays in bed at night and saying, man, wonder if I should put those Lindy Fralin pickups in my Epiphone, and so it's kind of fun. Okay. Janice does some mods. Fret level, no regrets. Yeah, it's fun to work on stuff. I have a good time cleaning guitars. The BC Rich was fun to clean. A lot of guys were like, don't use Windex, bro, but the BC Rich was fun to clean. And there's been times where people have called me and they say, hey, man, I know this guy and he needs to sell his whole collection. And I go over to the house and every guitar, there's like 30 of them and they're trashed. And I'm like, well, they're all trash, but it's going to be a lot of fun work restringing these things and getting them all back together. And I enjoy that a lot. And so that's when I start watching videos from, Dave's World of Fun Stuff does a good job overall. But the problem with Dave, in my opinion, is, he checks the neck relief and all the things that don't make much difference. He shows you how to do that. But then when he's like, okay, so I guess I'm going to level these frets. When he gets into something difficult to do, he cuts until it's done. He's like, okay, I guess we better level all these frets. Or the other night he did the Gibson and he couldn't get the bridge piece to fit in there right because it was flopping around. And so then he cuts to the next scene where he's like, okay, I went ahead and I put a little piece of rosewood down in the bridge to keep that nice and tight. And so that's the most important part of the video, that he did not show us how he did it. He just cut right to where it was done. So that's my only thing when it comes to Dave's World of Fun Stuff, is he leaves out the technical part of it when it comes to how's he actually doing it. There's that other YouTuber, T-Wood Guitars, but he's a luthier and he just shows him working on the guitars. And I like to watch when I have a lot of guitars to work on. I watch those kind of YouTube videos about the luthiers, that are cleaning guitars and doing neck resets and that kind of stuff. And so, and then I'll go back to watching Steel Panther videos for a while. But yeah, the YouTube world, it's tons of fun. And I get guys come in here and they've never seen any of these YouTubers. They don't watch YouTube. And I'm like, man, you guys are really missing out on a lot of good content. You guys are missing out on it. Wow. Janice is going to send me a picture. Awesome. Zoe loves doing mods. I know, right? Polishing turds. I enjoy it. And this week, today is Thursday, and I've only had 2 restrings this week. Yeah, T-Wood, that's the guy I watch. And I wish I could get more restrings to do. If I had 2 or 3 restrings to do every day, I would be happy. And it would give me something to do while I'm waiting for customers to come in, take care of customers, and then work on a restring and then take care of customers. But then again, every guitar that I buy or use as a trade-in or get as a trade-in, I usually restring all those things too. T. Woodford. Yeah. Yeah, that guy's got a great channel. Very informative. He doesn't do a whole lot of videos. I think he only does maybe 1 a week, maybe sometimes 2 a week. But he's another Canadian guy, I believe. And he gets old Martins and he gets old Gibsons, and he shows you every step that he does when he repairs a guitar. And again, that's my only complaint about Dave's World of Fun stuff. Super cool guy and everything. But when he gets right down to it, how'd you do that? He skips over that part. So it's kind of aggravating. The Stranglers. I remember that band. My drummer loved the Stranglers. Who is the most popular member of the Stranglers? I'm gonna guess it was the lead singer. What was that guy's name? I believe he was also in the Vibrators for like one album. Yep, sitting around waiting for fun things to happen. Dave, how are you? Colorado Springs, it's a great spot. I have an uncle that lives up in north of Denver in Fort Collins. So I go through there once in a while. Paul, how you doing? Fuchs. I have a Fuchs amp. I have a Fuchs amp down here. Yeah, isn't that nice when you get a really cool guitar that has tons of potential, but because somebody let their cat piss on it, they basically give it away to you for next to nothing. And then you can take your time and you can polish that thing up and you really got something that's nice. That's right. Cornwell, Hugh Cornwell. Believe he's the lead singer of the Stranglers. And just listening to the Stranglers, because I've had some of their stuff on vinyl, the keyboards were so weird that there was a riff in the song, but then the keyboards were doing something else, and it always drew my ear away from the song. And so I was trying to be a fan of the Stranglers, but that keyboard player threw me. Yeah, I got to open for the Vibrators. And what's fun is if you Wikipedia the Vibrators, and see how many people have been in and out of that band, it's amazing. There's been 50 or 60 dudes that have been in the Vibrators. And it's kind of funny. So you see them now and you don't even know who the guys are. But yeah, there was one show where I got to open for the Vibrators. Paul, how you doing, buddy?
What's up?
Not too much. What brings you in today? Hey, whatever happened with that Fender Deluxe pedal that I thought you bought from me and then you just brought it back? Do I still owe you for that?
No, we'll figure it something.
Okay.
For yeah, no, I
Okay.
didn't bother with that.
You want to say hi to my audience? Hello, audience.
Hello, audience.
My name is Paul.
His name is Paul. No. Who are you talking to?
Well, we got Janice and we got Glenn and we got Joey and we got Phil. And I happen to be talking a little bit about the Vibrators here.
What Vibrators?
And the other band we were just talking about, Hugh Cornwell from the Stranglers.
Oh, all right.
Did you listen to the Stranglers back in the day?
Not a lot, but yeah.
They were sort of 80s punk kind of stuff, late 70s even.
Yeah, they were good.
But they had a keyboard player. And so they were playing these riffs and these songs, but then the keyboard player seemed like he was somewhere else all the time. And it got in the way. That was just my first initial thought.
And did they kick the keyboard player out?
I don't think they did,
Huh.
but I kind of wish they would. Hey, there's Steve Carmichael says hi to Paul.
Steve Carmichael.
And then Stevie Lee, who's my lead guitar player in my band Whiskey Dogs, says Neanderthal.
Here's the
2
thing.
exclamation points after your name.
Here's the thing: the difference between Dane and myself. When I was in a band, it was our band. It was never my band. Dane he takes ownership of it. So this is my lead.
Bro, I've
guitar
been in this
player,
band since
my-
06.
I understand that. My band, my lead guitar player, my singer.
And here's a
us.
gig that I have coming up on
He's got-
Saturday the 23rd.
He's got a little bit of lead singer disease, and yet he can't sing a note.
I used to be a good singer back in the day, bro. When I was in my 20s, I just concentrated on those high falsetto background vocals.
Sure.
And sure, it was annoying to listen to, but tons of fun.
You know how quiet it just got?
Big in England, sophisticated punk. That's what we're talking about. Sophisticated punk, the Stranglers. Yeah, Paul Fuchs.
You know what I mean?
Wait, I want to go back and because Paul Fuchs had a question about Fuchs amplifiers. Here it is right here. Oh yeah, I've played the Fuchs amps. Did you do a video? No, I did not do a video. I did do a video about it because it's been like 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. The amp used to belong to Neil. And when I was at my old store about 3 years ago, like on a Sunday, because I had a barbershop lady that lived that worked, her shop was next to my guitar shop. And she was insane. She was Filipino. And that's not nothing to do with her being insane. But we would be playing guitar and she would come and pound on the walls, walk in the front door and start screaming at us. And I'm like, lady, these are customers testing out amplifiers. And she was nuts. But it was on a Sunday afternoon when she wasn't there one day that me and Neil plugged the guitar into that Fuchs and we turned it all the way to 10 and we played through it super loud. And when you do that, you know, on YouTube, you guys can't really honestly hear how loud it actually was. But that little amp, it's the Blackjack 21, and that little thing gets super, super noisy. Loud, not noisy like bad noise. It's a great sounding high gain amplifier, and it gets super loud. And we did do a video about that, but you have to search way back from 3-4 years ago to find that video. All right. So Brian, you know what, guys? I'm gonna deal with my customer for a few minutes.
Deal.
Maybe I can get. Yeah, we're gonna try to do a deal. Maybe I can get Paul to take over for me. Paul, you up for it?
What am I going to talk about?
They're gonna ask you to. Neanderthals coming in, guys. Ask whatever you want out of Paul.
Am I doing an Ask Me Anything?
Ask him anything.
AMA.
Apparently, I have been called in from the bullpen to sit in. I don't know what I'm here for. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. What should we talk about? What do you guys got? Am I going to see Tool in January? No. I like Tool. Just not going to see them in January. Show's sold out, I think. As far as I know. No, I don't have a band, Steve. It was an hour band. I never owned it. I was fortunate enough to play with very, very talented musicians, guys that I would still be playing with today if the band hadn't split up. We're all still friends. Everybody still stays in touch. We all still talk to each other, but they're 3,000 miles east of here. So unless they send me music through the internet, send me some tracks and stuff to lay some stuff down onto, we don't do anything. Yeah, you could be in our band. It would always be us. Hello, Phil. Favorite Deep Purple lineup? Well, the classic lineup, the Ian Gillan, Blackmore lineup. That's the lineup. The Glenn Hughes, David Coverdale lineup was good, but it's not the best. It's not the best lineup. That lineup is Blackmore, Lord, Ian Pace, obviously, who's one of the most underrated underrated drummers in the history of music. Ian Pace doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't get mentioned. Ian Pace doesn't get mentioned along guys like Ginger Baker and John Bonham and Neil Peart, but he should because he's every bit as good. I don't know that David Lee Roth has actually committed to his retirement. And if you look at the posters for the shows in Vegas, it says the final shows, unless it's not. So I think he's being honest about the fact that he'll play if he feels like playing, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. Favorite album? What? Phil S. Which album? Favorite album of all time? It's impossible. It's impossible. Favorite Deep Purple album? Man, I mean, it's tough to top Machine Head. I happen to like both Perfect Strangers and The House of Blue Light a lot. I think their second come round with Blackmore, when they sort of realized that they were lucky to have a second shot at it, they put out some really good music. But The House of Blue Light is a very underrated Deep Purple record. What else? He's wheeling and dealing over there. If you guys are looking for bands to get into that you haven't, you're wrong. House does not suck, Phil. It doesn't. It doesn't. You're incorrect on that. They have made some bad records, but that's not one of them. And I think the Tommy Bolin Deep Purple is woefully overrated. I think the best part about Tommy Bolin being in Deep Purple is the fact that they did Wild Dogs. They would do Wild Dogs live, because I like Tommy's solo stuff more than I like the stuff he did with Purple. And I'm not a huge fan of Zephyr. It's just the female vocal thing doesn't do much for me. That sort of that stuff is of its time, and that's a style of music that doesn't resonate with me. But I love Tommy. I think Tommy's a super player. And I think if you go back and you listen to Deep Purple with a different set of ears, don't focus on the guitar players, focus on the rhythm section, because the heaviness of Deep Purple is not in the Blackmore guitar, even though he certainly is one of the most underrated of all time. He never gets mentioned because he's such a mercurial guy. But Deep Purple, the coolness in Deep Purple is the rhythm section. And I don't mean Roger Glover. I mean John Lord and Ian Pace. John Lord and Ian Pace lock in to a groove, and they are the heaviness of Deep Purple. That Hammond organ, that John Lord is the meat of the good Deep Purple stuff. What else? And I think that Deep Purple is still underrated, by the way. Deep Purple is one of those bands. You're talking about a band that was overshadowed by so many of the other bands that came out. There's a couple of those bands that are like that. I think that Deep Purple is underrated. I also think the Who is underrated, and I'll tell you why. Because both Deep Purple and the Who they took a lot more chances musically than a lot of their peers. The Beatles were the Beatles, and the Beatles went everywhere and did everything great. The Who did the same thing. The Who would go everywhere, and they would play different styles of music and take a chance on different arrangements and different sort of production and stuff. Deep Purple would do the same thing. They were one of the first, hard rock bands to incorporate that classical style into almost heavy metal. And the Who did the same thing. But the Stones were a blues band, and they did what they did very well. Black Sabbath were a metal band, and they did what they did very well. Led Zeppelin, same thing. Led Zeppelin had a little bit bigger envelope than some of the other ones, but overall, bands like the Who and Deep Purple took a lot more chances, I think.
right, go scour one more time to see if there's anything that's
I'm looking for more questions. Yeah, Tommy's, you know, again, Glenn, talking about Tommy Bolin. Tommy Bolin was a weird cat. I put him in the same category with a smaller catalog of music to draw from as Gary Moore. He's one of those guys who's a name drop guy, but most people can't name most of his music, their music. So.
No tax. Okay. Yeah, for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some sales going on over here. Steve, interesting you mentioned that. I am one half of a morning show here at a classic rock station in Phoenix, Arizona called KSLX. And we are on weekday mornings, 5 to 10 Arizona time, which is currently Pacific Daylight Time, which will eventually become Pacific Standard Time because we don't change our time zone in Arizona. We don't do daylight savings time. You know, Rory Gallagher is somebody I'm not real big into. Not because I don't like. It's just I've just never really dug into the catalog. I don't know enough Rory Gallagher to even have any sort of an opinion. I don't know enough music. So, but I know that it's one of the great Irish guitar players that everybody talks about. But I'm told he's great. I think. I don't know. It's funny. I listen to a lot of guitar.
Very famous guitar.
I
think that was even bigger than him. Is his guitar.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of different guitar players, but Rory's not one that I ever got into. Oh, thank you, Janice. We spoke with Jason Bonham the other day and got Jason to tell us a fun story about how he still refers to Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones as Mr., which I think is interesting. They all grew, he grew up with them. Obviously we saw him for the first time and the song remains the same, sitting behind the drums while his father was sort of teaching him how to play, but he still refers to them as Mr. And there's a reason, because they still treat him like a kid. Robert specifically makes sure that Jimmy and John Paul remember that Jason is just a child and he's not quite worthy of full. I mean, he gives him, he treats him like he keeps him down a little bit. I think Robert does that to everybody he can, though. Robert likes to have that I'm a little bit bigger than you thing. Best concert I've ever attended. Jesus.
The Whiskey Dogs at the Marquee.
Nope, that wasn't it. Those guys sucked. I one of them was certainly Deep Purple in 1987 or 88. That was one of them. I have a unique perspective because I have been at concerts in different capacities. So I don't know that I'm able to effectively. The one that I remember as a kid, my first concert was Beatlemania when Aldo Nova was George Harrison, which is kind of neat. Loudest concert, Motorhead, without a doubt. Motorhead, the Channel in Boston, followed by ZZ Top. ZZ Top was incredibly loud when I saw them, like super loud. But I saw Motorhead on the Orgasmatron tour in a small club that called the Channel in Boston, which holds, I don't know, 1,200 people, maybe. I don't know, less than 1,500 people. And they had it set up like they were playing a fucking stadium in Europe. So, shitty Beatles. What are you looking for? Oh, he's fixing his thing.
Got to fix your thing once in a while.
I see it.
There you go. Now,
Ministry, I can see being loud. Yeah. Al Jorgensen is another weird cat. Al Jorgensen is a guy who has done as much and as wide a musical palette as a guy, and before Trent Reznor, and yet got leapfrogged by Trent Reznor, who was more hip and more popular. But Al Jorgensen, Ministry, did everything that Nine Inch Nails did before them, and louder and more aggressively. But for whatever reason, Nine Inch Nails just had the secret sauce.
They had a great logo. The N with the 1 and the backwards N. You used to see that on the pickup trucks, and that Nine Inch Nails logo was like, what is that? Everybody had to know, what is that?
If you have a good logo, that actually does help. We talked about this morning, actually, about people who have T-shirt collections that still have T-shirt collections, regardless of the fact that how you might feel about a certain band. For example, the Grateful Dead. We all know the Steal Your Face logo. When you see that skull with the lightning bolt down the middle and the red and the blue, you know exactly what band that is, or the dancing bear, or the skeleton, with the top hat. Those are all clearly representative of the Grateful Dead. And I think when you've got that kind of a logo or that kind of imagery, that kind of branding sticks and matters. So, yeah, I remember the Boss story. That Gamage show is part of a Bruce Springsteen box set that came out a couple of years ago. I think it was the River box set where they had some live stuff from Gamage that they played here in Arizona. And yeah, it screwed the foundation of the building up. Saw Pantera, Phil, with Wrathchild America and Testament, when Phil still had a mohawk. But it was down. It wasn't up. That was on the Cowboys from Hell tour at that same club called The Channel. And the best band on the bill that night was Wrathchild America by far, featuring a very young Shannon Larkin on drums. Shannon Hoon. Oh, this is the part of the show where Dane tries to pimp his Japanese BC Rich again, where he has listed this on Reverb for sale. So if you're interested in an all original,
it's actually sold. We're waiting on.
Oh, you sold it?
Though. I'm waiting on payment.
What'd you sell it for?
$1,400.
Not bad. Never mind. This is sold. You can't have it. I'm a Raiders fan because Al Davis, the former owner of the Oakland, Las Vegas Raiders, is from Brockton, Massachusetts. And he was a local guy. And he was, and I grew up in South Boston, and Al represented everything that was so tough about both Boston and Oakland. The philosophy for the Raiders back when I was a kid was you don't take what the defense gives you. If you're watching football, you've always heard that, we took what the defense gave us. And Al Davis's philosophy was you don't take what they give you, you take what you want. And I've always thought that's the best way to go through life. You don't take what life gives you, you conquer. You be the one. And then I played defense, and Howie Long was a kid from Charlestown, Massachusetts, that ended up going to Villanova and playing for the Raiders and being one of the greatest of all time. Thank you. And Sean Jones, who also played for the Raiders, went to Northeastern University. And in 1978, in a meaningless preseason game, the Raiders were playing the Patriots, and Jack Tatum hit Patriots wide receiver Darryl Stingley with a perfectly legal, clean hit, but Darryl Stingley never got up. So all we heard about was Raiders this, and how big and bad and tough they were. And I was 10 years old and very impressionable. And when you find the team that you want to follow, you stick with that team. So I've been a Raiders fan since 1978. So that answers that. Fret Level Midnight. What else?
Talking football, how about them Cardinals?
It's early in the season. You don't play the Super Bowl after 6 weeks. So
it's true.
Here's the thing, Phil. I'm a huge Steve Vai fan, and I like Satriani. The difference between the two, Vai is technically superior. Satriani writes more palatable music. And I think there's something to be said for that. Satriani writes more memorable, toe-tapping commercial songs. That said, I think he's incredibly boring live. He just sits there and does his thing. He's not a performer the way Vai is. Vai is a technically superior guitar player, in my opinion. He's certainly more musical as far as theory related and diverse when it comes to modal playing. And, remember, he started out as a transcriber for Frank Zappa. At that point, you are so deep into the musicality of guitar playing that I think that a little bit of your soul can be lost. And that may sometimes be the case with Vai. Sometimes he's so technical and so good that he misses the simplicity of the groove. I think he overthinks it sometimes. That's a great thing if you love technical guitar playing, which I do. But I think Satriani does a better job of catching the groove and getting you to remember his riffs. His songs are more memorable and more rhythmic and more toe tappable than what Vi does. But I think Satriani writes better songs. I don't think he's a better player, but I think he writes better songs. Yeah, Glenn, Call Me Assassin's a great book. I have Final Confessions of an Assassin. That's what it was, an updated version of the book before Jack passed. Ohio State defensive back. He was a hell of a football player. Joey Carter, you can't have one without the other. What, for Satriani and Vi? Sure you can. Sure you can. Vi took lessons from Satriani very young. Joe Satriani is really not the reason why Steve Vai is as good as he is. Certainly, he was instrumental in the developmental periods of Vi. But Vi went to the Berklee College of Music. He actually roomed with a guy that I'm friends with, a guy named Joe Stump, who now plays in one of the two versions of Alcatraz. Joe is an Yngwie disciple. Joe is one of those. He's Richie Blackmore, Yngwie, classical, neoclassical, Mixolydian, Phrygian, stacking, arpeggio type player. And when you go to Berklee is a machine. It breaks you down, kind of like the military. It breaks you down and builds you up and gives you all of the skill set that you need. And I think Zappa is far more integral to what Vi does as a player. I think he was inspired by Satriani because they're both inspired by Hendrix. But I would give Berklee and Zappa way more credit for Vi's excellence. But you got to have a good teacher when you're young, and I think Satriani certainly laid the groundwork for that. And Joe's a super nice guy, as far as I know. I mean, I haven't spoken to him long. I met both of them, and he's short. Vi, not so much. Vi is the biggest hands I've ever seen. Vi has bigger hands than Troy Aikman. Vi has, his fingers are like twice the length of mine. He has really, really huge long fingers. And it's amazing because if you've ever touched a gem, the necks on those are so thin and so small. It's amazing that he's able to not just swallow that thing up with his hand. Oh, Alcatraz Joe Stump. Oh yeah. No, Joe's a cool dude. Joe was, here's funny. Joe used to teach. He taught my brother, and he taught the guitar player in our band years ago. He taught at a place called Cambridge Music in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is in Porter Square. And Joe was in a band called Trash Broadway. It was one of his first bands. It was a band out of New York, Boston, but they got signed out of New York on a record label called Torrid. And it was Joe Stump, a guy named David Allen Steele, Nick Noiseau, and Jay Gates. Jay Gates now makes a living doing impersonations of Barry Manilow and Rod Stewart and makes good money doing it. Joe was an Yngwie disciple, Richie Blackmore Yngwie disciple, who went to Berklee and then tended bar at a place called Bunratty's in Boston, and then was in Trash Broadway and taught these lessons at this place called Cambridge Music. Then he got a solo deal with David Chastain's label and put out a bunch of solo albums. If you really want to hear shred guitar, his first one is called Joe Stump's Guitar Dominance. And there's another one called Joe Stump's Night of the Living Shred. And he's a phenomenal player. But again, like Vi, super technical and sometimes lacks feeling. And Joe's a fantastic player and a super cool guy. And Jesus, it's been a long time since I've seen him. I think it makes sense that he's in Alcatraz, though, given his, he is the second level down. Like if Blackmore started it all, and he did for Yngwie, if Blackmore started it all and then you get Yngwie, then you get Joe. Like Joe's like that third rung on that ladder, or third branch on the tree right there from the Richie Blackmore seed. And somebody asked, how do I compare Vi and Satriani to Yngwie? Completely different players, different styles. Yngwie does something that the other guys don't do, and I think that that's good. Yngwie is probably the greatest neoclassical shredder I've ever heard. And he's heard, and I mean, like, there's a bunch of guys that do that. I mean, McAlpine is every bit as good. McAlpine does something other than just the neoclassical thing. And Joe can play bluesy. He just chooses not to. Stanley Jordan's a phenomenal player. I love Stanley Jordan. For those that have never listened to him, a jazz guitar player who he touch plays. It's not hammering as much as it is almost like a piano. So he's got the guitar gain is really high, and he touches the neck and plays it in a tapping fashion. And Vi does a little of that too. And it gives it a much more percussive piano type feel when he's up on the neck. Stanley Jordan's a phenomenal player. And again, another one of those guys that doesn't get the kind of credit I think he deserves. The Stanley Jordan movie with Bruce Willis? Oh, I don't remember. But yeah, he was Stanley's phenomenal. Eric Johnson, another great guitar player. Johnson has one of the best clean tones. When he plays overdriven, what are you looking for?
I can put it on neck door.
Dane, you have a business card?
Yeah, right there.
Where?
Oh, here? Is that it?
Yep.
Jim?
Yep, ZIMM'S
I'll
Guitars.
put it online so people know you're here.
Thank you.
Okay. Very nice.
Eric Johnson has one of the greatest clean tones I've ever heard. And I love the fact that he gets that beautiful, round, for lack of a better term, watery tone out of a Strat. There are certain guys that should play Strats, and Eric is one of those guys. Yeah, Dana's is doing business. Joey Impellitteri is another in the tree of Yngwie disciples. I think his early work is cool. The fact, again, all of these guys eventually end up crossing paths with Grand Bonnet, and Chris did it early.
Sounds good.
I don't think there's anything unique about Chris Impellitteri's playing, but it's what he does incredibly well. Yeah, he's the Stand in Line record. They even did a cover of Rainbow Since You've Been Gone. And it's good. It's a good cover. He's a great player. I just don't think there's anything unique about him. There are a million great players, but is there something that if I were to play you Tony McAlpine, Joey Tafola, I don't know, Vinnie Moore, Chris Impellitteri, Joe Stump, and a half a dozen other guys back to back to back, could you tell me which one is Chris Impellitteri? And I don't think you could. I think he's very good at what he does, but I don't think there's anything very unique about him. I think he's a great player, though. And he may be better than Yngwie. One of the things that Chris does, and credit to him for that, is he does some different stuff. He does one thing very well, but unlike Yngwie, he tries to get out of that bubble of proficiency. Yngwie does what Yngwie does, and he's always going to do what Yngwie does. He does what I call little Italies, and lots of arpeggios and a lot of sweep picking, and that's great. But as Alice Cooper will always say, where's the song? And I think Chris Impellitteri has at least tried to do more. Yngwie's stuff is just it's unique. It is what it is, but it's very repetitive to me. I don't think he's done anything interesting probably since Eclipse. I don't think he's done anything different since Eclipse. I think the rest of it is just and now that he's doing the vocals himself and all that stuff, I think he's become a parody of who he used to be. Nigel Tufnell is the greatest guitar player that's ever walked the earth, Chris. Everybody knows that. You should even speak his name. Don't even say it. If you say it 3 times, he appears and then throttles you for saying his name. Yeah, I finger picking like that chicken picking, that finger Baroque thing, fret level midnight is cool, but a bunch of guys do it, and Impellitteri is one of the best at doing it. But yeah, how dare you mention the great Nigel? By the way, fun fact: those guys actually did play those songs on those Spinal Tap records. They played. I mean, for all of the goofiness that is Spinal Tap, they actually did write and play those songs. Now they had a bunch of guests on Break Like the Wind because a lot like Trailer Park Boys, once it got famous, once it reached saturation, massive saturation, then everybody wanted to ride the train and jump on board. But that Spinal Tap soundtrack record is actually very good. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Fred Little Midnight. I thought you were talking about literally that style of plucking, the Baroque plucking. My apologies. Yes, you're right, Phil. Nobody plays like Nigel. Nobody tries. I mean, you'd rather not bother. You ask yourself, why bother? And the answer is, why not?
Thank you, Brian.
Their Spinal Tap was phenomenal. In fact, I have a friend who does radio in Reno, Nevada, who turned Spinal Tap off. He said he didn't get it. And I really seriously reevaluated our friendship when he said that. I'm like, how do you not get it? You live it every time we go to a show. Every time you're backstage at every show. The thing about Spinal Tap is it was so damn accurate. I mean, the Stonehenge joke was literally based on Black Sabbath's Born Again tour with Ian Gillan, the one record that Ian Gillan did with Black Sabbath, which, by the way, is a very good record. Stonehenge is arguably my favorite Spinal Tap song, Phil, because of the mandolin solo. I think the mandolin solo is brilliant in that song. I mean, really well constructed, really melodic. I think it's a great song. I mean, the lyrics are silly as hell, but the song construction itself, the melody line, the way Michael McKean sings it, those are very well done songs, which I think makes it that much better. I think if you're going to do a parody band, there are two great parody bands out there, and they're not Steel Panther. The Ruddles, which was it was Eric Idle and Neil Innes from the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band, and Eric Idle from Monty Python. The Ruddles, who did a documentary or a mockumentary called All You Need Is Cash, was really funny about the Beatles, and which was financed by George Harrison, by the way, which makes it even funnier. And Spinal Tap. Those are the two great ones. And yes, he certainly is an exaggerated Jeff Beck. I mean, Christopher Guest nailed that look. Looks exactly like Jeff Beck. And there are a couple others. I mean, there was a band called, the band was called Strange Fruit in a movie called Still Crazy. And Bill Nighy, who was the main vampire in Underworld. Why I know this. He's also the guy that ran the ship in Pirate Radio. Bill Nighy is the lead vocalist of Strange Fruit, and he's hilarious. He's, obviously he's supposed to be in his 40s, but he looks like he's in his 60s, and he's recovering. So he has to give himself daily affirmations before he goes on stage at night. And the legendary Billy Connolly's in it. Billy Connolly's in the movie. Are you just leaving me in your store?
Yeah, we'll be right back.
You really owe me for this. I'm literally, Dane just left me with his entire store. Unbelievable. The Darkness is funny. Phil, you mentioned the Darkness. I saw them on their first tour and hung out with them for an entire night, and it was great. First album, obviously, when they first came out, in Seattle. Got flown up to Seattle to see them. I was working in Northern California at the time, and we're in this club. I don't know the name of the club, but it's down like a warehouse district in Seattle. And everybody's impressed me. So the Darkness comes out and they start playing, and of course, unitard, bandanas, the whole deal. And about 10 minutes into it, the people that were like this were suddenly like this. And then they were like, and by the end of the show, shirts off, spinning in the air, everybody was having the greatest time. We went back to the hotel and talked about Thin Lizzy until the sun came up. And they were totally cool. Totally cool guys. What's up, Pix? Yes, Glenn, Mike Smith is the guy you're talking about, Bubbles. And he has opened for Rush, which is pretty funny. I do have a channel, Fret and Level Midnight. I just don't have time to do it. I have a YouTube channel. It's Neanderthal Radio, but I don't have anything uploaded to it. I've got videos of like interviews that I've done with different bands at different radio stations. I just haven't had the time to upload them because I'm spending all my time sitting on Dane's channel, sitting on Johnny Bean's channel 2 nights a week, and I really don't do any of this stuff. I mean, my company, we stream occasionally during the show from the studio, but we don't do anything like this. And I think this is going to be sort of the future. I think you're looking at multimedia things where radio stations and television stations and podcasters, it's all going to be one mishmash of who can be entertaining and tell a story. And at some point, I'll have to figure out how to do that. Get stream when you get bored like Dane does. Well, here's the thing. I don't usually have time. Like normally I come in here, I'm going to pick up some gear. I'll shoot the shit with Dane for a second and then leave. I've got 2 dogs that I take care of and I'm fairly busy at home. I actually just put together my pedal board. I'm trying to figure out which way I want to go. I've got a pod, multi-effects floorboard that I use as a pedal board and run it in through a JCM 900. And then I've got an 80A MP1 and MIDI verb setup for rack mount multi-effects. And then I built an analog pedal board just to see which one I like. And they all do different things well. There is no one best system for every guitar. Like the analog pedal board sounds great with a Strat, but when you plug an Ernie Ball Music Man into it, it beats the shit out of it. Anything with a great, like a Super Strat, a Gem or a Kramer or a Jackson sounds great through the 80A MP1, but a Les Paul doesn't really. The Les Paul sounds great through the analog pedal board, and the multi-effects is just a jack of all trades, but a master of none. The pod floorboard or the Helix floorboard or, whatever floorboard you want to use. They're great because they're simple, but, and they're good for a quick, like if you're going to do them in a club. But as far as recording goes, the amp simulations are okay, but they're not great. What do you got there? Did you sell that?
No, but this is currently been posted on Reverb this morning.
BFG. This is the Gibson Les Paul Studio Bear fucking guitar.
Already finished guitar.
Bear guitar. There's no lacquer cover on this thing, so it's basically a for those that have never played one.
One thin.
Yeah, it's one little
nitro.
thin layer of nitro, and for the most part, it wears very simple. And that's where they cut costs on it. I mean, there's nothing on the fretboard. I don't know what year this one is.
2018.
2018. So this and it's got P90s in it, which is awesome, and it's got the modern weight relief, so it's very, very light. And it's P90 Les Pauls have their own feel and their own sound to them. It's got a 50s neck on it. Is this Grenadillo?
I don't believe so. It might be on the spec sheet.
Yep, it is.
Grenadillo.
Yep. Or as some people call it, Grenadillo.
Not
Ooh.
Ronnie James Dio.
It's got a great, it sounds good acoustic. It's bright. Yes, I know it's Grenadillo. Yeah, this is a simple guitar. It's got the Clusen Deluxe, the classic Clusen tuners on it. P90s, no coil taps, none of that goofy stuff. It's just straight ahead Les Paul with no finish. Everything is satin. There's nothing on the back. It's sort of worn. It almost looks pre-worn. These are cool little guitars. And he has it listed for, he's asking too much for it for me, as far as I'm concerned. I'd say it's a I'd say this is probably a $750 guitar, but he's got it listed a little higher than that right now, but I bet you can negotiate it down. Trust me. This was yours, Picks and Paints? I bet you didn't pay what he's asking for it now. Little buzz, little fret buzz here. Cool guitar. I'm a huge Les Paul guy, so I think he showed it to me to try and think that he thinks he's going to sell it to me. I don't own a Les Paul with P90s though, but cool guitar.
And again, I put this on reverb this morning, so it's currently on reverb. If anybody's interested.
He's starting to do reverb now, which means he's going to ship guitars, which is a change in business model for ZIMM'S guitars. For a long time, he wouldn't ship guitars because it's a pain in the ass. And he didn't have somebody to do it, but now he does. Yeah, he likes to trade. Dane is a big trader. I don't mean traitor. I mean trader. Didn't like the neck. Well, I understand that. It's a 50s neck. It's a little bit, it's baseball batty. You know, Les Pauls are an interesting thing. You either like them or you don't. And the necks can be anything from, I mean, the fattest neck Les Paul I own is a 57 reissue, 57 gold top reissue. I also have a 54 Jeff Beck Oxblood reissue that has a fairly thick neck. But then you get down into the 60s, you get into the 60s necks, and they're much smaller. Yeah.
You want to look at anything else?
Do I want to look at anything else? Yeah. I don't know. What does anybody want to?
Want to show off anything else?
What kind of guitar we should show off? You have a couple of. He's got an interesting one. He's got a Les Paul vintage mahogany, which is not the same as the Les Paul Studio faded. They're a different guitar.
Taylor T5.
Oh, cool.
It's basically an electric guitar, but it's not an electric guitar. It's more of an electric than an acoustic. It's not an acoustic.
Nope, not in tune.
Taylor T5. In solid mahogany.
The thing with these guitars is because they're so thin, and I think it has a composite. I think it has a Richlight fingerboard. They're really temperature sensitive. You know? Yeah, they're really. See what I mean? It's not ebony. I think it's Richlight. It could be ebony, but it looks too clean to be ebony. It doesn't have any grain in it. Might need new strings.
I test strings by just running my finger underneath the bottom like this. And if you feel a bunch of dirt, I'd be like, yes. But this one, to me, those babies are clean. But it takes electric guitar strings. It does not take acoustic strings. There's a pickup underneath here. And there is a transducer pickup attached to the bottom of the board. And then there's this tele-style thing right here with a 5-way switch right here. Every rose has its thorn.
Yeah, no.
Feel free to give them some riffs, bro. Let's see if we can get copyright claimed. I don't care on my channel.
Yeah. I was born in a trunk. Mama died and my daddy got drunk. Left me here to die alone in the middle of Tobacco Road. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I am a Bruins fan, Fret Level Midnight. I have been a Bruins fan since I was a little kid. Yeah, they're cool. They're cool guitars. I just, anything like that, that's that thin in Arizona, very temperature sensitive. So Taylors are guitars that I don't have a whole lot of experience with, but if that is an ebony fretboard, it is the cleanest grain on an ebony fretboard I've ever seen because it looks like Richlight. And again, Richlight is there's nothing wrong with Richlight. What I like about Richlight, A, is it's stable. Martin's been using them for years, so I don't, when Gibson went to it, the cork sniffers got really sour about it.
I think it's ebony because Taylor has this thing about ebony where they even have their own forest or something.
They have an
made a
agreement. Yeah, they had an
movie.
agreement.
They
Yeah.
made a movie about their ebony.
You all right over there?
Yeah.
Dane's drowning in his own vomit.
I got a little phlegm problem.
Yeah, I know that they cut a deal where they could. That was one of their things where they were like trying to differentiate themselves from Martin. But look, here's the deal: if you have to compare yourself to Martin, you've already lost. You know what I mean? Like that's just do your thing. Don't worry about what the other guy is doing. That's one of the mistakes I think that Gibson made for a while when Agnesi took over and he did the whole play authentic thing. Man, just do what you do. Don't try to get people. A badass doesn't have to tell you that they're a badass. You just know. If Gibson were smart enough to make good guitars at the time, and they really weren't, they were really iffy at the time. If Gibson were smart enough to make good guitars at the time, you wouldn't have to thump your chest. Hey, everybody. This one's out of tune, too. You know what that is? That is a Frankie. That is your EVH, really, Charvel, Frankie. And these are tough to find.
Plug it in, bro. Make some noise.
I'm not going to make any noise. This thing's
Make some noise.
out of tune. It's tuned to D.
Here, I'll tune it.
Yeah, you play it. You tune it. You play it. Yeah, it's a. You could be right, Picks and Paint. It could have been. Agnesi did have to take the heat, though. I mean, that's part of the gig. I think that was a huge. I think that was a huge mistake. That was a bad relaunch. Now that said, I bought one of the 2019 Les Paul standards from the original collection, and I bought a 2019 Les Paul Classic, which really should be in the original collection, but it's not. It's in the modern collection because it still has the modern circuit board underneath the volume pots. So it's got the plug and play circuit board and push pull pots all over it, which shouldn't be on a quote unquote classic guitar. But I love that it has all the appointments of the 60s Les Paul standard and then the 50s Les Paul standard. So I have one of each of the new breed of Gibsons, and they both play phenomenally well. You know, it's funny. The Frankie is a legendary guitar. I think the 5150 was more the 5150 and certainly the Kramer, the beak, the chicken beak headstock Kramer from Hot for Teacher. I think those are more, to me, more iconic. I mean, the Frankie was obviously the early version of it. So, but when he switched over to Kramer, that's when, that's that 82 through 85 period, or 88 really. He didn't get into Ernie Ball until 91. I don't know how much he wants for this, Frankie. How much do you want for that, Frankie?
Well, thank you for calling me Frankie. No, retail's $2,000. I like to negotiate. That is right. Everybody give us a good smile.
Yeah,
There's
Brett.
our guitars.
Yeah, Brad, the Les Paul Classic neck is great. It's the 60s neck. Again, each Les Paul feels different. And I think that's, if you're going to buy multiple guitars of the same make or model, you should get them with different appointments, different pickups, different neck profiles, that kind of a deal. And that's why I own multiple Les Pauls, because each one has a different pickup combo, so that I don't have to buy new pickups and put them in and stuff like that. You just go grab the guitar from guitar. I don't understand why you like Yngwie Malmsteen, going back to Yngwie Malmsteen earlier. He has, 100 of his own signature model Strats, because he can, but they're all exactly the same. They get the same pickups in them, the YJM pickups in them, the same scallop fretboard, the same finish. I think that's a little redundant and wasteful. Thanks, Fruitcake. Good to see you. I do too. Fret Level Midnight. I'm a Ernie Ball music man. That's my favorite Van Halen signature guitar. I think they got it right with the Ernie Ball. I also have one PV Wolfgang that I think is every bit as good as the EVH ones that they're making now, and maybe even better. He's already knocked it out of tune. Did you hear him? He beat the shit out of that bar and knocked it right out of tune. Which, by the way, part of the reason why I don't own one. I don't bond with that guitar. I have the Charvel equivalent of it, which is the Charvel Pro Mod San Dimas. Same guitar. Different, obviously different pickups.
Guys, somebody give us a super chat. I've had one super chat in the career of my channel. Somebody super chat me $5 just for the hell of it. Come on, boys. Super chat, $5.
I don't even know what that means.
I'll give the money to Paul.
Hey, everybody. Dig deep. For just pennies a day, you can feed this guy some more water.
That's right. Super chat. I'll give the money to Paul right now. Are you allowed to beg for money on YouTube?
I don't know.
Johnny does.
Yeah, Johnny does a lot of things on YouTube. Yeah, that's it.
All right, buddy. It's kind of tuned.
Kind of tune. I'm not playing this. I don't know how to play this.
Sure
I don't know what to do with this. See? It doesn't even make any noise when I play it.
Give him something, Paul. Give him something.
Is this? Oh, the nut's loose on it.
Yeah.
You don't have it locked down. It's already out of tune. Yeah, you gotta lock that nut down, man.
All right. Keep working. Hey, we got a couple. Oh shit, man! You're making big bucks.
Oh, am I? Look at that. Huh? Look
I
at
owe
that.
you $15.
Yeah, you do. I know. Just put it on my tab. Just put it on my tab of stuff that I'm gonna walk out of here with a pedal later. I should just take the cash, shouldn't I?
Keep it coming, guys. Keep it coming.
This is a new thing I made up. It's where you take your finger and you go. Have you ever heard of that before? I don't think anybody's ever done that before.
It's new.
Nobody's ever done that before. I've just invented something today, and you guys got to see it. I've also found a way to make the guitar go down in tune. You take the neck and you go. The closer to the ground it gets, the lower the pitch goes. Ready? I'm not sure you knew that. Finger tapping. That's a great idea. That's when you. I like that finger tapping. That's actually an arpeggio, I think. This thing is way out of tune. I should hammer-ons. No, I don't think the hammering part, because when you're already fretting a note, you're already hammering it. I like to call it pull-offs. Maybe you could do a combination of two, like hammer on, pull off, hammer on slash pull. I don't know. It's this. I'm still spitballing right now. I'm not quite sure what to call it, but it's a great idea, and I thought of it first. That's not a good sound. Somebody beeping their horn. By the way, I just got paid.
Thank you for the super chats.
Just got paid today. Got me a couple. Pocket full of dollars. There will come a day.
How about the loss of Dusty Hill? Why is nobody talking about that?
They've already talked about it. Dusty Hill was an interesting thing. His dying wish was for the band to continue on, which I think is pretty good, unselfish of him. Chris, I would start a band where everyone wears makeup and tall boots, but it's already been done. They're called Wasp. Perhaps you've heard them. They were the first ones to ever do that. Nobody ever did it before Wasp. Wasp was the first band to wear platform shoes and makeup and spit blood and have fire and stuff on stage. Nobody ever did it before Wasp. Nobody. Ever. Ever.
Are you sure? I thought there was that one band.
Nope. You're wrong. You're wrong. It was Wasp.
Gene Simmons?
Actress. Yeah. Nobody ever did it before. I could throw some meat into the audience, but meat is very expensive right now, and the supply chain is limited. So I'm afraid we won't be able to throw any meat in the audience. We will throw Beyond Meat into the audience, which is not meat at all. It's Beyond Meat. It's tofu and soy and icky.
Bacon strips.
I had I have the Wicked Lester record bootlegged somewhere, and it's not very good. Stephen Collinell was not very good at what he did. Is that a ukulele?
No, Neil's in the back.
He's got a left-handed Les Paul?
Yeah, it's exactly. You put new capacitors in it.
Huh. Huh. We have an awkward silence on the show. Are there any more questions?
Dixon and Paints is Dave DR Guitars. He changed the name.
Oh. Yes, I'll hear from Gene's lawyer. He is Gene's lawyers are Doc McGee's lawyers. Gene doesn't deal with lawyers anymore. He just has Doc deal with it all. It's funny, Steve, you mentioned that I need a Les Neanderthal. It's only ironic that my name is Paul and I happen to love Les Paul guitars. It's Ace Frehley's fault.
And your last name's Marshall.
I know, which is even sillier.
What a cool name.
Jim Marshall, the godfather of tone, the godfather of loud. Jim Marshall's son's name is Paul. I should try and cash in on that. Fruitcake wants to know how much is shipping on that EVH.
Where's he live at?
Fruitcake, where do you live? Destroyer anniversary vinyl. They've released Destroyer like 3 times. They did their Destroyer, then they did the Destroyer Reimagined or whatever the hell it was called. I own it. I don't want to buy another. I'm not going to buy another version of Destroyer. North Carolina.
It's going to be about $100 because we got to put a lot of insurance on that to get it that far.
So what you're saying is you'll sell him that guitar 1900 shipped.
Yeah.
There you go. Fruitcake, 1900 shipped. That's cheaper than you're going to get it anywhere else. It's $2,200 at a local music store in downtown Mesa.
And I'll put it in the original packaging.
And it will have been played by a guy who can't play guitar whatsoever, and me. Again, it doesn't. Did you notice they don't make a sound when I play them?
Sing it, Paul.
It's already out of tune.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, Gene's going to want to get paid. Fucked it up. Sounds good once it's in tune. Someone's looking at me, woman outside is looking at me like, what's he doing? It's a guitar store. I'm playing guitar.
So, your gems. Talk about how much your gems have gone up in value.
No, this is not the one I had a while back, Fruitcake. This is a brand new one. The one I had a while back is now in Scottsdale. Guy bought it.
Dude, you got 10 more bucks coming.
Sweet. Sweet. I'm making bank.
Wait, hold on.
This is like the Catalina wine
what's those
mixer.
other- Oh, yeah, there's the 15 I paid you. And then we've got one from Laguna Palms. $5 from Laguna. And then we've got Dry Heat 480.
I'm making money. That's enough of that. I don't really play guitar. I'm a singer. I don't really play guitar. And I'm making money. This is great. Sweet. Sweet.
Back in the box.
Yeah, busking live. I should be busking. It'd be great if I could busk. If I could play well enough, I would. I play bass, but if I here's why I can't play. A, I don't have any talent. And B, I have two countersunk knuckles. because I made the mistake of when I was a kid hitting things that you shouldn't hit. So if you notice how, see, the first and second knuckles are way up there, and then the rest of my fist is way down here. My pinky is essentially useless. So for me to have to pick and to like finger with my pinky is a pain in the ass, and I get an intense hand pain. So I can do two finger stuff. It's like Django, Django Reinhardt. I can play like that, but I can't really chord because my hands don't really work well. I could sing for Bullet Boys. I could still do that. Mama, Papa, talk to your daughter for me. I like Bullet Boys. First three Bullet Boys records are fantastic. Excellent records. I mean, it was Ted Templeman's attempt to try and recreate a new Van Halen. It was interesting because you got, Mark Torreen looks like David Lee Roth, obviously with the frosted hair and the stage moves and stuff. And then Mick Sweeta, who was in King Cobra as a bottle blonde, peroxide blonde, all of a sudden he's got that long, curly, stringy hair, and he's not wearing a shirt. He's wearing the Les Paul down, slung a little low, and he looks a little bit like somebody who plays in Guns N' Roses. I thought that was an interesting, yes, I thought it was an interesting ploy on Ted Templeman's part to try and build a combination guitar player that looks like Slash and singer that looks like David Lee Roth and band that plays, bluesy hard rock. I thought they were good. I thought the first three Bullet Boys records are good. I love Dred Zeppelin. Dred Zeppelin's fantastic. I saw them up in Scottsdale right before they broke up the first 6 times. They're back together again, I think. For those, if you're not familiar with Dred Zeppelin it's a Led Zeppelin cover band that plays Zeppelin music, reggae style, with an Elvis Presley lead vocalist impersonator. Tortelvis is his name. And Dred Zeppelin is so good, Robert Plant calls them the best Led Zeppelin cover band in the world. Like Robert Plant's like, if you're gonna do Led Zeppelin, do it the way Dred Zeppelin does it, and they are excellent. And they got like 6 albums out. The first couple albums were all just reggae Zeppelin songs with an Elvis impersonator, and then they started to break down and do their own things. And they did a couple other like classic rock band songs, and then they started doing their own songs, and that's usually when it goes wrong. Usually when a band that has a gimmick like that tries to break out and do something on their own, usually it doesn't work. But Dred Zeppelin is fantastic. See you later, fruitcake. I love Dred Zeppelin. Big fan. I'm doing Dane Streen for him. Have I been on here like an hour now?
You can quit whenever you want.
I'm enjoying sitting down and making money. I like the money part of this. This is the most money I've ever made in this shop.
Yeah,
of course, it's just, here's the thing. It came out of that pocket. It's just going to go in that pocket.
If you super chat, I'll give the money right to Paul right now. He's already at like $25. He's already at $25.
Of course, he's already screwed me out of $5, and he knows that. He doesn't think I can count, but I don't care.
What?
I just screw me up. I'm going to end up spending this in this store on something anyway for the kids. I just made that up. If you end anything with for the kids, you can get away with everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all the money goes for the kids.
For the kids. All you have to do is, and if you're doing something awful, like, yeah, man, I completely keyed that guy's car in the parking lot for the kids. Yeah.
Smiley face. No matter what you say,
yeah.
Put a smiley face at the end of it. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Or LOL. LOL. You're a complete and utter prick. LOL.
Give it a minute before going into the bathroom. LOL.
Yeah. So I set fire to the frozen foods aisle at Safeway for the kids. If you end it with for the kids, it's all good. Mark Tureen is actually a very good guitar player. He was a guitar player in King Cobra as well. Mark is very good. Was very good. The beef's all done. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any beefs with any of that shit. If there's any drama going on the YouTube world, I am not part of it. I don't know what that is. I don't care. I have no idea. Somebody just asked, he said, are all the beefs done now? I like all the channels. If there's beef going on, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't give a shit. I don't, this is why I don't have a channel. Cause I don't really have time. I'm too old to engage in YouTube drama. I get enough of it on Facebook. So I'm just thankful to be hanging out with my friends. I'm thankful. I have a friend that runs a music store. I have a friend that has a great YouTube channel. I have a friend who's a guitar player in Gizmochi. I have a friend who collects guitars who lives in upstate New York. I have a friend in New England who's just been engaged. I have a friend who plays guitar with Hal Sparks in a Nerd Halen cover band. That's me. These are my friends. I don't give a shit about the drama stuff.
Rudy Sar, I see Rudy Sarzo's in there somewhere. What's up with that?
Yeah, Rudy Sarzo has a book out where he talks about, different places. Rudo Sarzo says he was terrible. I don't know. He might be. I don't know. Look, King Cobra was terrible. King Cobra was another example of Spencer Proffer trying to manipulate bands. In the 80s, there were a couple of producers that did this. Bo Hill was one of them. Bo Hill made Kicks sound like Rat. And Spencer Proffer made everything sound like Quiet Riot. He had that big sort of cannon drums, Frankie Benali, the drums at the beginning of Come On Feel the Noise, that big cannonball drum sound with the very over-processed guitars. That was a Spencer Proffer thing. And Spencer had King Cobra, he had Quiet Riot, he had a band called Kick Axe out of Canada. Everything that Spencer Proffer touched sounded very similar. And I think they were all trying to do what Mutt Lange did with Def Leppard and AC/DC. And then later Bob Rock would do with Motley, The Cult, Metallica, and you name whatever great record that came out that Bob Rock put his fingers on. Alex 2112. I love Jakey Lee. I was very disappointed in the first Red Dragon Cartel record. I thought the vocals were substandard, and I thought they could have done better with that. That said, I thought the second Red Dragon Cartel record was fantastic. And I am a massive fan of Badlands. Love Badlands. And I think the Jakey Lee years of Ozzy are woefully underrated. I think that Ultimate Sin and Bark at the Moon, You're No Different is one of my favorite Ozzy songs of all time. And I think that the Jakey Lee era of Ozzy is sickeningly underrated. Here's a Jackson Concord, if you're interested. This is actually, I think, one of the mid-level ones because it's got a Floyd special on it.
Made in India.
This is an India one, but they make a cheaper one that has like the regular non-locking tremolo on it. It's a cheaper version. This is, I think, the mid-level one. And decent guitar. What do you want for this? It's got EMGs in it.
It's got a price on it.
Oh, it's got a price on it. Sorry, price on it. $500. If you're a Randy Rhoads fan, that's a good guitar. That's the Concord. Randy Rhoads Concord. If you're a fan. Whatever you have to trade, Fret Level Midnight, that last Lynch Mob record. You're not talking about the remake of Wicked Sensation, are you? The one where he reimagined Wicked Sensation? Not great. No. I don't know who produced Bark at the Moon. Was it Max Norman that produced Bark at the Moon or Tom Werman? I think it might have been Max Norman. Might have been Max Norman. Not sure. Yeah, no, that's $500 is a decent price for that guitar. Dane is fair, man. And if you got something to trade, he'll work with you. He loves trading. That's his favorite thing to do. He owns a guitar store, but he loves trading. That's like he gets the juice out of it. It's almost like a gambler who doesn't really care how much money they win or lose. They just love the juice of doing it. I think that's Dane's thing. Dane loves trading guitars. He loves the excitement of it. Loves the negotiation of it. He's a music fan. He's a fan first. He doesn't want to screw anybody out of money. This is a cool guitar.
That's a Philip McKnight. I bought that from Philip.
This is a newer Epiphone, and you can tell by the headstock. It's closer to Gibson. A little closer, almost like the original Samick, when Samick was making the Les Pauls in 1988-89, the first years that Epiphone made Les Pauls. They were made in the Samick factory, and this was kind of the same headstock. It wasn't quite as pronounced as the Gibson headstock. And this is the Les Paul Muse. If you are a fan of the band Muse, this would be something you like. And I assume that this has all the coil tapping.
Here's what the
all the
old
stuff that comes
style headstock looked like.
They called that the Tombstone headstock.
Where the little corners
The clipped
got cut
ears,
out.
the clipped ears headstock, the Tombstone headstock. And people hate that. And I don't know
Yeah.
why they do, because it's kind of unique to that guitar.
It's a little bit wider. The new ones are wide right here compared to that.
Yeah.
But it left its ears on.
Yeah, they've made this thing look a little bit more Gibson-y, a little bit more. It's almost like the Casino. It's not quite as rounded as the old Casino headstocks. I have an old Epiphone PR350 acoustic that has a similar headstock to this. It's a little more round. It's a little more pronounced. But again, Epiphone's making great guitars now too. In fact, there's an argument to be made that the Epiphone, the quality of Epiphone over the past 20 years has been more consistent than the quality of Gibson.
And there's a full review and demo on McKnight's channel about this exact guitar.
And it's interesting because it does have the coil split. I mean,
Yeah.
coil split and the true bypass, and this one doesn't do it. So this is going to be coil split. And I think this is true bypass or out of phase. It's out of phase. This is going to be out of phase. This is going to split your neck pickup. This is going to split your bridge, or vice versa. I don't remember. And then the out of phase. And then on some of them, on the classics, the fourth one is actually a true bypass, which basically it's wide open in the bridge. It's similar to the old open book Kalamazoo headstock. Yeah, the new Epiphone.
No poker chip.
Which I think looks stupid on a Les Paul. You should have a poker chip on it.
Yeah.
I know the original gold tops didn't, like the 52s didn't have that. Les had the poker chip pulled off.
I love where the position of it's at.
Well, that's supposed to be by design. But yeah, it does look like the old Kalamazoo. And if you like Gibson style guitars, but you don't want to pay Gibson style money, although they are getting up there in price now, Heritage makes good. The Heritage, that's called, and it's basically a bunch of old Gibson employees, kind of like what G&L did with George Fullerton and Leo Fender did, and they opened their own shop when G&L Guitars was a thing when Leo was still alive. Heritage is like that. Heritage is actually in the old Kalamazoo factory. Now it's funny. I like the Les Paul with the poker chip, but I have an ESP USA Eclipse that doesn't have the poker chip because I don't think the poker chip looks right on the ESP. I think that's one of the things that makes the difference between the two. Neck through. Schecter. I'm not.
Sinister
I am not an Avenged Sevenfold fan at all. So this does not appeal to me at all. It's interesting that the Schecter headstock here looks like the old BC Rich headstocks. Remember the old Warlocks, that old BC Rich series? But this is a Sinister Gates signature, neck through. Yeah, this is nothing for me.
You're too freaking old, buddy.
No, I'm not. I like good guitars. I like guitars that are gonna age gracefully, and this is not one for me. Avenged Sevenfold, their 15 minutes is over.
Not another hit album coming out of those boys?
No. It's a nice guitar, just does nothing for me. South Korea, so this is going to be a world music guitar.
Somebody strummed it up backwards.
What? Oh, they strung it up backwards?
They strung it up backwards.
Yeah, well.
I'll have to redo that.
Yes, you will. Whatever.
I'll go put it in
It's a cool guitar. It just does nothing for me. Yeah, Duncan Invaders and that. It's just not a style of guitar I like. I like shredders, and Dan mentioned earlier, I'm a big Gem fan. I love the Ibanez Gem. I do not like the Pia as much as I like the Gem. I think the Gem is a better guitar. I think the Pia is less attractive. But I understand that Steve wanted to rebrand it and name it after his wife, and I think that's sweet. But I don't like the engraved covers, pickup covers. I thought the gem was perfect as it was, and there was no need to screw with it. Yeah, I don't think Avenged Sevenfold is as good as Maiden, but I do think that there's a similar style with the twin guitar leads. I think Avenged Sevenfold are a more palatable Dragon Force. I don't like it because I don't like the vocals. I think the vocals are very emo. I don't like emo. I hated Linkin Park. And it's not because I don't like rap rock, because I loved Limp Bizkit and some Korn and Rage Against the Machine. And I think Seven Dust is the best of the new metal bands that never gets the credit that they deserve. Fantastic players, great riffs, excellent rhythms, and a great singer in LeJean Witherspoon. But Avenged Sevenfold just does nothing for me. But new metal, I mean, there's some of those bands are outstanding. I just don't, Slipknot is great for what they do. But Slipknot, a lot like Yngwie Malmsteen, they did what they do very well. And I think they've peaked in what they're capable of doing. And that's why Corey does so many other things. I thought Stone Sour had more diversity and more song structure. And then he kicked Jim out. And Corey's solo stuff is fantastic. I think Corey Taylor is a fantastic songwriter and a great singer who is just killing his voice screaming in Slipknot. Yeah, Seven Dust. I wouldn't say Seven Dust is new metal either, but because they came kind of like Badlands and Extreme got labeled hair bands, and they're not really hair bands. And there were bands that got thrown into the hair band genre, and Tesla's not at all a hair band. They're more like they're closer to Foreigner, Bad Company, Free, that kind of a deal than they are a hair band. This was my guitar, and I traded this in for a Fujigen vintage violin. So 2018 Fender USA Stratocaster Ash Strat. And it's got locking tuners on it, the deluxe locking tuners. The 6-point synchronized classic tremolo in ash, solid. It's a heavy guitar, relatively thick neck, and it plays like a Strat should. The second and fourth position on a Strat is magical. And they're not making ash. Fender's not using ash in their bodies anymore, from what I'm told. So this needs strings though. That E is dead. Listen to how dead that is. You can tell I play on the low strings a lot because the high E, that rings out nicely. And then cool Strat though. And they don't make these anymore. So
The guy that bought that one guitar.
it's interesting because I never really noticed it, but where the Fender logo is on this headstock, normally they tell you where they're made. It'll say made in USA, or it'll say made in Mexico, or it'll say where. This one says underneath the Fender logo. Look at it where it says Corona, California.
Yeah.
Obviously they're made in Corona. That's where the Fender USA plant is, but I just find that's an interesting. I always thought that was an interesting thing on this headstock. I only own a couple of single coils. I have a Jimmy Vaughn Strat, which I love. I've got a Fender American Original 50s Mary Kay Strat, in that nitrocellulose pink white finish, which is a fun Strat. And then I've got a GNL, a mid 90s GNL Legacy, USA Legacy, which is the best Strat I own. The GNL Legacy, USA Legacy, to me is superior to the Fender Strat in every way, because Leo changed all the design flaws that were in the Stratocaster when he sold the company to CBS. He then rectified and delivered with George Fullerton with the GNL guitars. He fixed all of the flaws that were in the Strats that CBS was putting out, and then Fender adopted like the 2-point tremolo, the different tone circuitry that they used in GNL, and the GNL guitars are fantastic. They're the best value for a used USA guitar because they're fantastic guitars, but they don't hold their value on the used market very well. So yeah, it used to say on the Fender ones used to say on the back of it'd say Corona, California on the neck plate. They didn't put anything on the headstock. It was on the neck plate. It would say Fender Corona, California. It's interesting. Fret level midnight. I have a gem. It's called a Gem 505, and it is the only. That guy just bottomed out the front end of his car on the curb. I could hear the plastic scrape. That's got to leave a mark. The 505 is the only maple-necked Japanese-made gem that you could get back in 2010, 2011. And the neck is not scalloped at the top, and it has dot inlays. So it's like having a regular Strat neck. It doesn't have any of the design in there, and that's how they cut some of the production costs down. Yeah, the G&L tremolo fret level is ugly. The tail, it's a whale tail, and it's gross. It's gross looking, but it's stable and it does its job. It's just not very attractive. And I love my gems. I'm a I've got the gem VWH with the ebony board. So the regular gem, the flow, if you will. And then I've got an old 89 VBK, which is the black one with the neon green, the Steve Vai green, and the first rosewood Tree of Life fretboard. And then the 505. I had a couple of different ones too. I had a couple other gems, but I sold them. Yeah, that's it. Fret level midnight. Essentially, it's that gem with the monkey grip and the lion's claw dugout on the tremolo. It's basically an RG 550 with a monkey grip. Same guitar, because it's got the Ibanez Infinity pickups in it as opposed to the DiMarzio Evolution pickups, which, by the way, is great because if you've got, as I was saying before, if you've got a different gem, like if you've got the regular gem VWH or the gem VBK or any of them with it, like I have the one with the Evolution pickups, I have the one with the PAF Pros, and now I have the one with the Infinities. So it's like 3 different gems, 3 different neck profiles, 3 different pickup combinations, and that's sort of goes along with my. If you're going to buy multiple guitars of the same model, make them different, different appointments.
Robot Master Switch. Brad guitar.
Their tremolo bars seat within the cavity. If you've got a, the problem is there's a little inside the cuff fret level. Inside the cuff, there's like a BB. It's a little plastic pellet that you have to. It's a tension thing that you have to. It's an Allen screw, and you go in there and you screw that Allen screw, and it sets that BB like a little plastic pellet, like remember the little yellow BBs that used to come in the little guns when we were kids? It's kind of like that, but it's white in there. And what you do is you take the tension screw and you screw it in a little bit, and that BB will act like a ball bearing, which is what BB stands for, a ball bearing against the bar, and it won't wiggle if you have the tension set right.
Look, Paul TJ's in here. Look at that beautiful shirt he has.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's
Nice.
got one of those shirts but me, because he doesn't make them in men's sizes. Yes, it's like a set screw in there. If you look down, if you take a flashlight, fret level, if you look down inside the collar of the G&L tailpiece, there's a BB in there like a set screw, and you set that in, and it sets the tension on the bar. Glenn, that Ash Strat, I think he's asking 9 or 950, but I bet you can get it down to 7. I bet you can get it for 750. Bring something in, Yeah, I mean, I've got a big neck, and he's got, and they're not men's size shirts. I mean, Dane is he's got linguini arms. He's a small guy. I'm a person and a half wide, so my shirts, I have to buy them really, really big, like drapey, like a gorilla. I don't know what I'm doing here. Why am I still doing this? I really should be gone by now. I did make $20 off it, 25. And I want to grab a pedal of some sort. As I was saying, I finished my pedal board, but I took I had a Delta Labs delay, and I got rid of it. The Delta Labs delay it's cheap, but I put an even cheaper one. It's just this little Chinese company called Ammon something or other. It's this tiny little. It's a purple mini pedal, and it just says Echo. It's not an Echo. It's a delay, but it's got these tiny. What's up? It's got tiny little mini switches on it, for the level and the repeat level and stuff. And it's a tiny little, stomp box like an MXR switch, that kind of switch. But it's the mini one. It's a tiny little thing, and it fits anywhere you want to put on your board. And the delay sound out of it is outstanding compared to Delta Labs, which is a piece of shit anyway. And I couldn't find a carbon copy. He doesn't have a carbon copy here, or I would have grabbed that. Dana's not shorter than me. Dana's taller than me, Phil. Dana's like 6'3", 6'4". I'm 6'1". Oh, look at that. Dana's selling a guitar. He's selling guitars. This is what he does? He sells guitar. I've never seen him sell guitars. Maybe because I'm distracting him from doing his job all the time. Oh, Phil McKnight is on. If you guys want to go screw around and see a real guitar channel, see somebody really talk about guitars, I really can't. I can't compete with that. Phil's awesome. He's a good dude. I own a bunch of his guitars. In fact, my Ernie Ball Music Man, I think, was a Phil McKnight guitar. My Marshall Silver Jubilee Studio mini stack. It's not a mini stack. It's a 2x12 with a 20-watt head, 520. I think that was his as well. What else was Phil's? I've owned several of Phil's guitars over the years. He's a good dude and knows his shit. Sorry, distracted. Neil is talking about his guitar collection. Neil's a great dude. Neil is the left-handed guitar player. He's the guy the only reason why Dane owns left-handed guitars is because Neil shops here. Oh, it was, I just got a thing, Phil. It was, fret level. It was a pop-up ad. So if he's not live, he's not live. I just saw a pop-up show up. Maybe it was just a post. Maybe he posted a video. My mistake. Phil had a great store here in town, but saw the future and realized it was in the internet. It is? He's got 1, 2, 5 customers in here. That's pretty high for a Thursday afternoon. What else is going on? Hey, Quentin. I don't know why I'm on ZIMM'S Guitars page either, but I'm here. Good to see you, Quentin. This is a bonus thing because I don't use, like, I schedule my time for Saturday because I don't really have a life. No girlfriend to really speak of. And Tuesday nights, Mancuda, who doesn't want to hang out with a foul-mouthed guy like that for a couple hours?
Thanks for coming in, man.
I'm actually looking to get a
Dane is selling.
concert size acoustic.
He's selling.
No, you help me fix my page.
I usually check one.
Selling.
I bought the Firefly from you.
This is a cool little shop because he's got so many weird guitars. Like like he's got old Jacksons from Japan. He's got great basses like Lakeland basses and Schecters and Sound Gears and like, you know, anything from the most bass level guitar to he's got some Dan Electros with lipstick pickups, you know, if you're into that 60s retro thing. He's got a great ESP EC1000 over there. He's got a couple of Epiphone Les Paul customs. He's got a custom Black Beauty over there. He's got a cool Ernie Ball OLP, the OLP MM1, which was the original, you know, Ernie Ball, Eddie Van Halen knockoff. It was the one that they did, the efficiently licensed version of it. And you never know what's going to walk into the shop. So you want to tag in?
No.
Tag in.
Let's tag out, bro. Look. 2 hours and what's that say? 41 minutes?
No, go ahead, tag out. I'll let Dane say goodbye to everybody. Guys, thanks for being cool.
Everybody's super cool.
Wow. I've been sitting there so long, I'm sore. I bet that seat's sweaty and wet.
Paul, thank you so much.
Sweaty and wet.
We'll see all you guys on another day. And definitely Tuesday on the Johnny Bean channel. If Johnny sends me a link. I might get fired at any time.
Yeah, that could happen.
Hey, you know what? I'm doing that Tuesday night show. And there's 2 other comedians on the show and then Johnny. Why am I on that show? I ain't a comedian.
Why did you say Johnny's not funny? I just heard you say Johnny's not funny.